Good afternoon, everyone. It is so great to be here with all of you. I am excited to be able to share a little bit about change. When Marcia called and talked about what she wanted me to talk about, she said, I'm thinking a change is going to come. And instantly, Sam Cooke, for those old schoolers in the house, Sam Cooke, a change is going to come, came roaring back to my ears. And I thought, that could be really, really powerful. So I'd like you all to pause for a moment and just reflect. So think about change. And there could be a first group that says, okay, well, change is already here, and it's a really good thing. There's a second group that may actually say, well, change isn't here yet, and it can't come soon enough. There's a third group that might be saying, change is a constant, like we're always adjusting to it. And no matter what group you're in, I just want you to sit with it for a second. Like when you think about change and what category you fall in, like what comes up for you? Like what are your feelings about it? Are you excited? Are you apprehensive? Are you nervous? What's coming up as you think about change and the environment that we find ourselves in right now? Because no matter which one of those you are, there are feelings that really say change is inevitable. And throughout all of our areas of life, that happens, in work and personally. We can't change that fact that change is just going to happen. But let me assure you that every breakthrough in history, every leap forward, every moment of brilliance began with somebody saying, this is uncomfortable. And they had to sit with that. But they also thought, what if this is the beginning of something extraordinary? And as you think about change, we could be at that moment. Because there's a mindset that says change is all about how you react to it. Regal Dawson said that you can change without growing, but you can't grow without changing. Because change is inevitable, but growth and opportunity is not. That's the mindset shift that we have to think about, because sometimes it really is a choice. Change comes about and you have a choice about that. Could just be a change of circumstances, but there's always this remarkable possibility to shape what is next. The ability to transform change into opportunity is not merely a skill, it's an essential capability that all of us should really think about how we do it. Changing how we think about change and how we respond to it is 100% within your power. You have the opportunity to decide how you're going to seize the moment, how you're going to respond, and what you're actually going to do. And today I'd like to offer for you a couple of distinct types of power that reside in each and every one of you as you think about driving this instrumental change. The first is the power of authenticity. Second, the power of perspective. Third, the power of conviction. And fourth, the power of community. My life has been marked by significant change. You see, I was born in Compton, California. I like to say I'm the original straight out of Compton. My father was the track coach at Compton High and got the opportunity to move to Tucson, Arizona, to be the first black head coach. Do I have U of A folks in the house? Nice. But my dad had the opportunity to move to Tucson, Arizona, to be the first black head coach at a Division I university. And so he took the opportunity. And we moved from 99.9% black Compton to 99.9% white Tucson. And my life was spent traversing both of those very, very different environments. As a daughter of a track coach, I say to people, my parents didn't raise children, they actually coached us. They coached us to be our best selves. They coached us to strive for excellence, to set big, hairy, audacious goals and go after them. There was no such thing as failure in our household, only ways to do it differently. And I have to tell you, it's incredibly freeing when you grow up in an environment like that. that there is no such thing as failure, but only opportunities to do it differently the next time. That fearlessness then of trying new things, learning new skills, challenging yourself was really forefront. And it was about learning and growing and striving for excellence. And those have been constants throughout my career. I think back on a pretty pivotal time. It was a summer and we had gone back to Los Angeles. And I was outside playing with the kids and I wanted to go ask my mom if we could go to the corner store. And I ran inside and asked her, and she gave me this furrowed brow and this weird look. And she said, "Why are you talking that way?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she looked at me again, unwavering, and said, "Why are you talking that way?" And I had to confess to her, unknowns to me, I slipped into my Southern California slang. And she said, "Don't ever change the way that you talk." And I had to tell her that the kids were making fun of me because of my accent. They said I talked proper now and what had happened to me. And my mom said, "Don't you ever change how you talk to accommodate somebody else. The world talks the way that you talk. So you go tell the kids that you can teach them how to talk the way that you talk versus you trying to talk the way that they talk." So I marched my little 9-year-old self outside, and I told them what my mom had said. I don't think I won any friends that day, but it taught me a really important lesson. The next lesson came when I was 13 years old, but on the other side. You see, we were driving in the car at the park with one of my friends and her mother, and there were these little black kids in the road doing wheelies on their bicycles. And Mrs. Smith, I'll protect her innocence, I'll change her name. Mrs. Smith said, "Oh, well, look at those unruly black kids." The population of Tucson was about 1% black at the time. And I said, "Mrs. Smith, aren't I one of those unruly black kids?" And she said, "Oh, no, dear, you're nothing like those kids." And I remember sitting with that and thinking, okay. When I got home, my mom had asked me, "How did it go today?" And I told her what Mrs. Smith had said. And with the same discernment and furrowed brow, my mom got down to my level and she looked at me and she said, "You are exactly one of those little unruly black kids. And don't you ever forget it. Mrs. Smith has to see you differently because you live in her neighborhood and you play with her children. But don't you ever forget that you are a black child." So what got cemented again that day is that I need to really just be 100% who I was. That those two lessons really became clear to me, that people are going to think about you how they want to think about you. People are going to say things about you that suits them, that has nothing to do about who you are. And so stop wasting and pretending to be someone who you're not. Start investing that energy in becoming the best version of yourself that you can be. Because authenticity just isn't about being true to yourself. It's about being brave enough to show up in the world exactly who you are and take control and ownership of that. That's the power of authenticity. My career has also been full of a bunch of changes. I was in sales, I've been in human resources, I went from P&L leadership, I've been in healthcare and consumer products, financial services, and where I am now at Wells Fargo. And each change that has occurred, it's been a new door that has opened. And I've learned about curiosity and adaptability and resilience, embracing the challenges that really led to that change. And I'd really like to think about that perspective, because as you think about that AI and how AI is really changing, I looked up the definition, and it said it's a specific outlook, viewpoint, or understanding of a situation or event. It's shaped by personal experiences, backgrounds, and beliefs. So if something is shaped by experiences, beliefs, and background, then that means it's in your power to change it how you see fit. Because change may happen to you, but opportunity really is your perspective to change that into what works for you. The power of perspective is about changing the fear of that new opportunity or that uncertainty that we all have to really think about that opportunity to learn new skills. And there's been a lot of change, and there's a lot of great opportunities that go with that. But those tools about learning and curiosity, about building resilience, are ones that we can all use, are ones that we can all think about to really take change and turn it into this opportunity and put those skills to work for the benefit of others. I reflect back on being able to apply new skills. It was December of 2004, and Earth, Wind, and Fire was performing at Fannie Mae's Christmas party. Were you there? It was amazing. It was amazing. It was a highly festive evening, and everyone was just having a great time. The company had just had a great year. But suddenly the mood changed. Our CEO, our CFO, and the company controller all of a sudden left the party. And what we found out 48 hours later is that all three of them had been forced to resign. That the SEC and the OFEO was the regulator at the time, that they were charging the company with accounting improprieties. And they charged the company with charged the company to pay $400 million, and we had to restate 6 years of earnings. Those improper, in addition to the improper accounting proprieties, there were control failures, but culture was seen as the number one reason for us to do the restatement. So the COO at the time was installed as the interim CEO. And he came to me and he said, my success or failure as the new CEO is going to be predicated on our ability to be able to get this restatement done and to be able to change the culture. And I thought to myself, there is no way I'm leading that work. Because you see, the fact is, I didn't like working at Fannie Mae at the time. It was hard for me to work there because of the culture. And before I knew it, that sassy person that Chuck talked about that spoke truth to power, no came out of my mouth, and I told him exactly why I wouldn't take the job. And he said, that's exactly why I want you to do it. Because because it's hard for you to work here, you know the elements of the culture that you think need to change. And you'll be the perfect person to change it. And so I accepted the job, and I moved forward in trying to help. And it was one of those things that the next 2 years profoundly changed me, both personally and professionally. You can't do work like that without fully investing everything about who you are. And that change was really extraordinary. We were able to complete the restatement on time and under budget 2 years later, and we changed the culture going forward. We asked everybody to sign what we called the promise, which was this list of behavioral statements about how we wanted to run the business and how we wanted to treat our customers and each other. And it really taught me that in managing change, you have to have the power of conviction. Because I learned 3 things were necessary in doing that work about the power of conviction. It's conviction. And the first was this clarity of purpose. Like, you have to develop a vision and principle that anchors why you believe what you believe. And you have to be able to articulate that to others. That way it prevents you from wavering when things get hard. And believe me, when you're focusing on leading change, it will get hard. For that change, it really meant starting with the CEO and his direct reports and really pouring through all of the feedback that we had gotten from all the different stakeholders that talked about the culture and why it was the way that it was. And that go-forward strategy had to address each and every one of those concerns. And not only address that, but really create this forward momentum for the company in going forward. The second thing I learned is that you have to have confidence and self-belief. Because when you're doing something that nobody wants you to do, there were plenty of people who thought the culture was just fine. When there were plenty of people that doubted you, so you can't doubt yourself. You have to have that power of authenticity that we discussed before, so that when you speak, people will actually believe you. They'll trust what you're saying, and they'll get on board with how you need to move forward. I recalled when we first rolled out the business case, and there was a lot of employees who were like, this is not resonating with me. And we'd do group by group and conversation by conversation, and we kept hearing that it wasn't really resonating, that people weren't feeling the new strategy. I remember thinking like, but this addresses all the feedback that the stakeholders had. Like, why isn't this moving forward? And I remember adding one slide, and it changed the narrative and made all the difference in the world. The mistake I was making was talking about a culture or changing a culture that many people, 10, 20, 30, 40 years of working with the company, they loved that culture. So it wasn't resonating for them that the culture had to change. And the shift that I made is talking about the great things about the culture. But what do you know? Too much of a good thing, when overdone, can become bad. And that's what had happened with the culture. We had too much of a good thing. We had relied too heavily on the things that we thought were our strengths. And when overdone, that ended up becoming a negative. And that shift ended up making all the difference in the world. The third is about courage and resilience. You have to be comfortable standing alone. You have to be firm that despite the obstacles or criticism or fear that you may face, that change sometimes is about pushing that boulder uphill or swimming against the status quo. And I can tell you that if you feel like you're alone, you might be. But having that courage and resilience, if you know it's the right thing, to stay the course and move forward. It's important to stay committed. Throughout my career, I've been fortunate to be a part of some really bold decisions that have driven systemic change, not only at the company I was at, but for the industry. And there will be times when those measurable business successes and tremendous impacts on the communities that we serve are the only thing that keeps you going. And seeing that difference can make all the difference. Chuck talked about, I joined Wells Fargo 5 years ago as the CEO of Home Lending, and a year later, I was fortunate enough to step into what's probably one of the most impactful opportunities in my career, and that was chairing the Mortgage Bankers Association. I was only the fourth woman and the first Black ever to hold that position in the 170-year history of the organization. And that honor was more than just a title. I really felt like it was a mandate for me to bring meaningful change. Because the fact that it had been 170 years and I was the first Black to enter that position said that there was an opportunity for us to think differently about the environment, especially if we were going to get more people into housing and be available to all. And so you get to pick a platform the year that you're the chair, and I picked my platform, and it was threefold. One, I wanted to promote home ownership in underserved communities. I wanted to be able to increase the supply of affordable housing or increase those opportunities for affordable housing. And I wanted to diversify the industry. I was committed that while I might be the first Black, I didn't want to be the last. And so I wanted companies to make this real commitment. And so I asked CEOs to be able to sign this pledge. We called it the Home for All Pledge. And it was asking CEOs to commit their companies to at least one of those strategic priorities and to drive real change around that. And I was thrilled when over 350 companies actually signed the pledge and said that they were committed to fixing what was happening in underserved communities and helping more families realize the dream of homeownership. That out of that, the outcome was born from change, from using my power and trying to engage others. But it was about creating the power of community, our collective power to create lasting change and lasting opportunities for many families for years to come. Today, as the head of financial inclusion and opportunity at Wells Fargo, I'm thinking about that in the same way, this power of community to really empower consumers with the tools, the knowledge, and the support they need to be able to have the secure financial future that all of us should have. And it's about stability, like helping people really be able to meet their financial obligations through budgeting and income management. It's about helping families with resilience, about encouraging some of those money-saving habits and preparing people to deal with financial shocks and emergencies. But most importantly, it's about security. It's about assisting people in this accumulation of assets that can contribute to long-term health and wealth. The goal is really to identify how we can best engage, equip, and empower families to realize that financial future by giving them the tools and the resources to be able to do that, and to do that in community with partners, many of which are in this room. Certainly HomeFree-USA is. It's the opportunity really to democratize the information that people need most. I think about finance and how important that is, because it's the perfect place to really bring out the power of the convictions that I developed not only as a child, but that were resident through my upbringing, which is a person's zip code shouldn't define the opportunities that they have. The children I grew up with in Compton were equally as smart and as talented and as driven as the kids I grew up with in Tucson, but they didn't have the same opportunities. You see, talent is evenly distributed. Opportunities are not. And so how do we create those opportunities? How do we make sure that people have access to the information to be able to change the trajectory of their lives and improve their communities? And I'm really incredibly fortunate that that conviction every day is what's really driving me, and the power of doing this in community can change so many of our lives. We are living right now in this time of rapid change and rapid innovation. Artificial intelligence I'm fascinated by it. I think it's going to be one of the biggest revolutions that we've seen in our lifetime. AI has the opportunity to provide this opportunity for greater access. And it can literally change how we reimagine what is possible. I've been blown away with how quickly AI has changed just this year alone in terms of how we work. I usually don't respond to an email now without putting it in AI just to see if their response is going to be better with mine, especially if it's one that's challenging me. You know how you respond to that email and you're like, I probably shouldn't send that. AI is perfect. AI is perfect for that. Anyone else? Yeah. I also use it to summarize long documents. How many of you get a super long email or you've got stuff to read? AI summarize. It's one little button. So it's changing, right? And our company's providing us the tools to really help us do things more efficiently and more effectively. And it's really powerful when you think about that change. You know, Steve Jobs said, innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity and not as a threat. With AI, the threat certainly could be that people lose jobs because it's more efficient. But to me, the real threat is not embracing this new world order or what could happen. Because things are changing at unimaginable speed, and you want to get on board with that. And it's critical to think about leveraging AI for financial inclusion, thinking about the possibility of building this more equitable housing and finance system, bringing more people into this. And I see 4 ways that this is possible. The first is being able to democratize access to information. You know, before, financial information especially was available through bankers or financial assistants. Like, what if we are financial advisors? What if we were to really bridge the gap in this financial information with education and tools and resources and make it widely available for all? About really empowering individuals, regardless of their zip code or their social and economic background, to gain the knowledge that they need to be able to realize these financial futures. It's about increasing efficiency and certainly reducing barriers. AI solutions can streamline processes that we think about, certainly about opening accounts or having people apply for loans or managing transactions, making it easier and faster for people to do it. And certainly not having to walk into a bank branch to do it, but to be able to do it digitally. So I encourage you, if you haven't played around with AI, start doing it today. Download one of those AI chatbots, whatever one your favorite one is, and get started. Because I think you'll find that the journey this lifelong learning can open the door to new opportunities that can make us all richer and better. So each of these opportunities that I've shared kind of throughout have really led me throughout this notion that change really is inevitable. And it's really about how you choose to deal with it. And so it culminates, as I think about my background and my career, into these 5 top lessons that I've really focused on through my leadership journey that have really been guideposts for me. When I think about the 5, the first is pursue progress, not perfection. I've learned that taking daily actions to progress to get me toward the desired outcome, it really is this notion of grace, that I don't have to have it all figured out. And if I make a mistake, that I can get up tomorrow and try again. It's focusing on moving forward to what you're trying to achieve. The second is about care more about making a difference than about making a paycheck. This was an important mindset for me. My parents would tell us to leave things better than we found them. And I grew up with that, but I quickly defined what that meant. And it was about doing things for others versus doing them for me. Because when you care more about making a difference, then your focus shifts from yourself to be about others. And life is certainly more rewarding when you do it in service to others. The third is about seeing obstacles as opportunities. And we've discussed a lot about change today and what those different things are, but the importance of seeing that change as an opportunity. Because obstacles and challenges will be a natural part of the journey, so embrace it and be able to move forward. See those as opportunities to be solved and look for the potential that they provide. Number 4 is challenge yourself with people who make you better and who challenge you to be better. I have found this to be one of the biggest catalysts for growth in my career. Those who encourage you to step outside of your comfort zone, to question your own assumptions, and to stretch you beyond your limits will accelerate your development. And they will help you discover capabilities within yourself that you never knew existed. And the final is be the change that you want to see in the world. This is a Gandhi quote, and it's something that I've lived by for as long as I can remember. And I've learned throughout my career to not make change happen to you, but have it happen by you. To prefer to lead, to transform this mindset into ambition, into action, and aspiration into achievement. Reminding us that progress is most profound when we do it with others. So the lessons that we have learned today: trust your authenticity, broaden your perspective, stand firm in your conviction, and really think about how else you might be able to move that forward. If we can advance. Thank you. And learn on your community and lift others as you climb. I'll share a quote to end by Robert F. Kennedy, and he said, "For time and the world do not stand still. Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past and to the present are certain to miss the future." As we reflect on the actions today, let's carry forward this unwavering belief that within each of us lies this strength to embrace change, to make bold choices, and to be the catalyst for the progress that we all want to see. Remember that the future doesn't simply arrive, that it's shaped by those courageous enough to be able to meet change with curiosity, with compassion, and with conviction. Be that person. Step into the unknown with hope, with courage, and with the knowledge that your actions, no matter how small, can create that lasting impact. Be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you.